17th, 2018 Board of Health meeting. I will call this meeting to order, and we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks all for coming, and thanks for the public joining us today as well. We'll start the meeting off by just a review of the November meeting minutes. I did not see any issues that I had with the minutes. Did anybody else have any issues from the email this week? Mistakes, misspellings, anything? No? Seeing nothing specifically to change, is there a proposal to approve the minutes for the web?
So moved.
Is there a second? There's a second.
Second.
And we'll bring it to a vote then. All in favor say aye. All not, no. So it is done. So we'll approve these for the web. Put those aside. All right. So let's move into some old business, please. I think we'll start with what Dr. Simmons and I were talking about prior to the meeting. We had spoken last meeting a little bit about the plans for the township on the West Nile virus surveillance. We, just to remind everyone, we do know that the state is no longer going to be surveilling for West Nile virus in the mosquito community and in townships across the state, having them sprayed when there's a high population of infected mosquitoes. So it's been left just in the air. And I believe that Dr. Simmons had said you had spoken to.
Yes, I talked to, I tried to track down, I think, 6 of the townships. The 2 Montgomery County townships both reported that the county will be running their surveillance program. I couldn't find anybody at the township level in any of the Chester County boards of health. And then in Haverford Township, I think they're scratching their heads as we are. So it may need to be pushed up to the county level, or we may need to work in that direction.
And as we were speaking again before the meeting, Chester County has a fairly robust health department for the county. Individual townships are variable if they have a health board, but the Chester County Health Department's usually on top of mosquito-borne and tick-borne illnesses, and frequently in my practice we get information from the county health department, and also whenever a child is diagnosed with Lyme disease via labs, they're on top of that to get us to get information to them about their location when they were infected. So I think from Radnor Township's point of view, we're going to probably have to piggyback with some county, whether it's going to be Montgomery or Chester County, unless the Board of Commissioners has a better idea. So I guess the future for our board would be was, again, to just encourage the Board of Commissioners to get on this quickly, because we are, kind of running into, 5-6 months before they're going to start surveilling again, as soon as the warm weather comes. And I think that, that's a great idea, Kathy. I think we should make the recommendation to the board. I think they're on it already, but I think that it would certainly be helpful if we just, made a formal recommendation that says the Board of Health is, actively concerned that we could go a summer without really being able to track this in our township, if they don't, if we don't find some kind of solution. So I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. Just kind of wording it to the township commissioners that the Board of Health recommends that a search start immediately to, I don't know, any extra wording there to, thanks, Kathy.
I do have the contact information as well. I can give that to you after for the whole committee to look at for the division director over at Montgomery County Department of Health. Mm. So we can at least reach out and get some kind of a rubric to forward over to the...
Yeah, whether it's our job or not to do that, or the Board of Commissioners to do that, or just for us to make the recommendation to do that. I think
got it if you need it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. So, I'm sorry, what did I say so far?
I'll shoot you over an email. Mike,
Mm-hmm.
you want to use your mic, Kathy? Oh, sorry.
I'll get you an email over with a recommendation.
Okay.
With the wording.
And we can certainly approve this by email. it's not a big deal to send something off to the commissioners and approve it by email, because we might
Correct.
consider that too with the next order of business anyway, to approve something that's already worded from the Radnor 100, Ready for 100. So we should move on that one this month maybe prior to the new year. That'd be great. Okay. Number 2 on the old business agenda would be a piece of paper that I left in front of everyone before the meeting tonight that's labeled on top a vision for 100% clean renewable energy future. And it is the actual policy statement from, is this one? I know this is from Mrs. No one gave it to me, but is this from? It's from Radnor Ready for 100? Okay. So worded by Radnor Ready for 100. And it is a great statement. I read through it myself. And I think that it may have some, pieces that people may agree or disagree with, and I want everybody to have the opportunity to make their opinions known on this. So don't want to force you guys to make a decision today. And again, since it's already written and typed, we can address this via email as well. Has anybody had any opportunity to read this prior? Did you have it, Nancy? Yeah, I think it's a very well-worded statement. And again, this is giving the Radnor Township the to jump on board with many groups, including, let's see here, Phoenixville, Westchester, Downingtown, Haverford, Philadelphia, and about to be approved in Lower Merion and White Marsh. And Mainline Health has put out a response and a proposal as well to this initiative. And Mainline Health specifically states they propose to incorporate into its short and long-range strategic plans an acknowledgement of the role it plays in contributing to the local carbon footprint and the role it should play in mitigating the health impacts of climate change. And their strategic plan will include charting the path to transition to 100% renewable energy to reduce their contributions to the health impacts of climate change. And they are going to address their carbon footprint in their various supply chains and operations. They're also going to use it to strategically use their voice to raise the awareness of health issues associated with climate change in the community via education programs, and address the health impacts of climate change in the community needs assessments. So Mainline Health, one of the larger corporations in the township, is also on board for that, which I think is really terrific, because I think Mainline Health has been a leader in smoking bans on their campus, and a lot of good information out to the public, like we do as a board, to educate the public about health dangers. So hoping we can lend support to this as well, which shouldn't be a problem. The third order of business, the old business, is the resolution on the gas leaf blowers. I believe that everyone got this email, I believe. So, and thank you so much, Nancy, for kind of getting this down to its basics, the kind of information that we want to give to the public and to the Board of Commissioners. Does anybody have any comments on the specific proposal, which I will read to you as soon as I find the email here?
You asked me to provide a reorientation for the rationale.
Thank you.
So I am prepared
That's
to
what
do
we'll
that.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it.
Okay. So the information that I shared with the board last March, I think, came from the American Academy of Pediatrics Committee on Environmental Health. And the concerns with gas leaf blowers fall into 3 categories: the exhaust, the particulate matter, and the noise pollution. And overall, we know that children are particularly vulnerable to the effects of gas leaf blowers, as well as landscape workers, seniors, pets, pregnant women, and people with cardiopulmonary diseases. In terms of exhaust, one leaf blower operating for 1 hour puts out as much exhaust as 17 cars, and it tends to be concentrated in one neighborhood instead of strung out along the highway. It's a 2-stroke engine, the fuel of which is particularly toxic, including volatile organic compounds, nitrous oxides, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrocarbons that relate to increased cardiovascular disease and increased risks of cancer. In terms of the particulate matter, the nature of particulate matter, well, first of all, we know that the smaller the molecules, the smaller the particles, the deeper they penetrate. It consists of mold, spores, pollen, insect eggs, heavy metals, animal feces, weed seeds, fertilizer products, and the rate of discharge of rate of dust up of particulate matter is about 5 pounds an hour from one machine. In terms of, and that associated with health risks such as preterm birth, low birth weight, increased risk of autism, arrhythmias, MIs, strokes, diminished cardiac function, various lung diseases, cancers, asthma, and diminished life expectancy, among others. In terms of the noise pollution, the machines tend to operate at a sound level of 100 to 115 decibels, exceeding WHO and EPA recommendations. Normally, our ambient sound is in the 40 to 45 decibel range. This sound is particularly destructive because it's a pure sound, it's chronic, it's penetrates walls and windows. Some of the health risks that go along with the sound pollution include increased stress, elevated blood pressure, abnormal glucose metabolism, obesity, stroke, heart disease, sleep deprivation, hearing loss, tinnitus. Children have diminished test scores, hyperactivity, and the concerns that I've enumerated in these 3 areas are noted by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Public Health Association, the Children's Environmental Health Network, and the Harvard School of Medicine. So that's the background information. So with that, the resolution is that proposed. The Board of Health recommends the restriction on use of gas leaf blowers in Radnor Township to those of model year 2007 or newer and usage between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. The model year designation comes from research provided to us by townships around the country who have noted that the problem is much less in newer than 2007 models than older models. And as we thought about enforcement, it will probably be on a complaint basis, and model of the machine is an easy thing to check, as opposed to running around monitoring decibel levels and other kinds of factors. So,
did you happen to see, Nancy, the ordinance? I know John Nagel had referred to it, the ordinance on the leaf blowers, but I didn't, unless I missed it, I didn't see it.
John's point was addressing your concern about the danger of particulate matter obstructing vision for drivers. And John's point was that we already have an ordinance against obstruction of thoroughfares.
Okay.
So again, from the point of view of a complaint basis, it's the same thing. If there's complaints, that the township should be taking care of those kind of things.
I wonder if we should think about enforcement, because I see it all the time. I mean, people just blowing leaves right in front of cars.
What John
said
said
on a regular basis
at the last meeting he attended where we discussed this was all we have to do is pick up our phone when we get to the side of the road, safely pick up our phone and notify them. That's the enforcement. Complaint.
Any other comments about the actual proposal from the board to the Board of Commissioners that we would recommend this? Anything else that would come up?
Was there any thought about not doing it at all on Sunday, or is that just we agree that probably during daylight hours that's fine? Just asking.
I'm open to banning it on Sunday. I thought about that, but
I feel that we're kind of stepping into some muddy waters here, considering that some folks only have weekends to do lawn work. But
I'm okay with it as it is.
I think it gives two things. It certainly will somewhat reduce the decibel level at times when kids might be sleeping and evening activities want to be moving along, and certainly it's addressing some of the pollution issues in the older models of machines. I guess similar to what there was done at some point with leaded gasoline in cars. So I think it does provide some amount of health benefit to our community in as much as we can control, I think.
The only reason I bring it up is because I don't think you can do, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you can do like construction or repairs from a contractor, right? Is that correct on Sunday? So,
The Sunday preclusion is a complaint-based enforcement as well, because I know that most of the creditable contracting firms don't, but there are people out there on Sundays, without a doubt.
That is correct. If you literally contract technically with anybody to do your lawn, and it's on a Sunday, they can be shut down and cited by the police department. But again, if you want to get up on a Sunday morning and do your own lawn yourself, that's not something that can be stopped by the police.
so should we make that distinction even for, so if a resident wants to get up on, at 8:30, right, on a Sunday and then blow leaves, are they not allowed to do that?
We're proposing between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. We didn't restrict the days.
So they can do it between 8 and 6 on Sunday, and that's fine. But a contracted landscaper would be able to do that as well if they're not doing major landscaping or something like that? No, they cannot, based on complaints. All right.
There doesn't even need to be, and I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm talking about you. You're driving around the township, and I see, Bob's landscaping crew out on a Sunday afternoon, cutting grass and using leaf blower on a Sunday afternoon, and I stop and I identify Bob, and that's not Bob's house. I can shut them down. It does not have to be.
Good to know.
So I have a question that might be just a tad bit too cute, but if our first order of business was the vision for Radnor Ready for 100, and we're talking about relatively modest preclusion of 11-year and younger gas blowers, is there some way that we could encourage the utilization of electric-based and renewable energy sources for across the board, not just leaf blowers, but mowers and so forth? Might be a little too cute right now, but
I don't know
I'd
if
like
it's
to
too
move in
cute. I
that
think it's a
direction.
good thing to add to the proposal. I mean, it certainly, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that we sit here and talk about that. We did initially talk about making it a ban on all gas because there's, good electric units out there. But again, sort of stepping out of the bounds of a recommendation into more of a restriction for residents. But I think there's nothing wrong with adding a line onto this that would say, and we encourage the use of electric lawnmowers and leaf blowers to, obviously to
The
protect
health
climate.
effects are, we recommend the use of electronic lawn maintenance equipment because the health effects are far less.
Yeah. So, nothing wrong with that at all. So Kathy, have that down?
I got it.
Thank you so much. So maybe we'll just read that whole statement out loud and see if we can just maybe get this one sent up to the Board of Commissioners today.
So we had a line adding that residents are encouraged to use electronic lawn, you said electric,
Whichever.
because there are now battery-operated lawnmowers, battery-operated leaf blowers, and a rake, the good old-fashioned way. And a rake,
Electric and manual.
a manual.
Yeah. So the first line of the resolution is, the Board of Health recommends the restriction on use of gas leaf blowers in Radnor Township to those of model year 2007 or newer and usage between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Is this saying, and the Board of Health also recommends the use of electric or manual lawn equipment for lawn maintenance. There's too many lawns in here. I'll have to word this.
So electric or manual equipment for lawn maintenance.
For lawn, you want to,
I didn't, it's not here.
oh, it's there? Oh, okay.
This is the add-on.
Do we
Got it.
want to reinforce the existing ordinance as well, just if it's going out, that on Sundays?
I think that's great.
I'm saying on Sundays, commercial landscapers are prohibited from performing lawn maintenance duties.
Prohibited.
You can limit it just to the gas leaf, that they're, by current ordinance, not supposed to be using gas leaf blowers on Sunday at any time.
Well,
narrow.
individuals are different from.
Though individuals would be allowed, individual owners are under current ordinance allowed to perform these activities. We encourage, again,
So we're adding on a statement to encourage the use of electric or manual equipment for lawn maintenance, And we're also adding to reinforce that on Sundays, commercial lawn organizations are prohibited to perform lawn maintenance duties. That's what we're adding on.
Is that fair to say, officer, that that's consistent with our current ordinance in Radnor?
I am not an attorney, but it sounds.
Neither are we.
And simple.
Closer to it than us.
Yeah.
So simply to recommend that, and that wording should suffice to help, to help the community understand the rules of the township as well.
Okay.
I do like this. So that being said, any other additions, subtractions from anyone? No? Okay. So I'd like to bring it up for vote so we can get this approved and send this off by email to the Board of Commissioners for their meeting. Is there anyone that would like to give a yay to that to start the voting process?
Do we need a motion?
Do we need a motion to start that? I guess we don't need a motion.
right.
We don't. I will move to make this statement to the Board of Commissioners that the Board of Health recommends the restriction on use of gas leaf blowers in Radnor Township to those of model year 2007 or newer, and usage between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And the next line.
And to reinforce the use of electric or manual lawn maintenance equipment, and that commercial organizations are prohibited from performing lawn maintenance duties on Sundays.
Is there a second to that, or we can all? Yes. Okay. And any all in vote in favor of this motion to the Board of Commissioners?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, we'll pass, and we will send that along. I'll get the wording from you in formal writing, and we'll get that off to them. All right. That's why we, okay. All right. Yes.
Before you move on, could
Into the front
we
here.
perhaps show you a 2-minute video that arrived today?
Sure.
Ready for 100?
Oh, that was, okay, yeah, definitely. I would have that in the end, but I'll do that now. That's great. So there is a video produced by the high school, is it? On the Radnor Ready for 100 that they produce. So we'll take a look at that if we can.
It's the Action Earth Leadership Council, and I'm not quite sure what I have to do to get it up. Ian, are you back there, and you could cue it up, please? There we are.
And you said that was from the high school.
This is, I thought you would enjoy this. This is, we didn't ask, we knew nothing about it. These kids are really gung-ho. And here we go.
I support 100% renewable energy because we want to invest in our future.
I support 100% renewable energy because it provides us with clean forms of energy that don't pollute our fragile environment. Go green.
I support 100% renewable energy because we only have one Earth.
I support 100% renewable energy because I want to live in a safer, cleaner, and healthier environment.
I support 100% renewable energy because climate change is detrimental to the environment.
I support 100% renewable energy because I want to leave a cleaner and greener world for my children.
I support 100% renewable energy because I support positive change.
I support 100% renewable energy because there is only one Mother Earth.
I support 100% renewable energy because global warming is real.
I support 100% renewable energy because we would be foolish to continue to eat up our very own planet.
I support 100% renewable energy because I love the Earth.
I support 100% renewable energy because we need to do something about climate change because climate change is real.
I support 100% renewable energy because I want a cleaner and healthier world for my children.
I support 100% renewable energy because hot weather should stay in summer.
I support 100% renewable energy because
I want a brighter future.
I support 100% renewable energy because there's only one Mother Earth.
I support 100% renewable energy
for the environment.
Because we have to take care of the environment.
We need to save the planet. Solar and wind power, love it.
I just thought you might enjoy what the kids have come up with. Pretty fantastic.
Thanks, Sarah.
Do any of you have any questions? I know you didn't have perhaps time to read the resolution. It's been to the EAC has added their language. The Board of Health has added their language. We're planning, God willing, to take it before the Board of Commissioners on the 28th of January, which is their second meeting. And we would love to, we need your support, frankly, and we want your support in order to present it to the commissioners. We'll probably have these high school kids here that done too. Little band fair. It's really moving forward. The 100th city, which was Cincinnati, passed it last week. Even Atlantic City has passed it. So it's really gaining momentum, and it will be reintroduced into the Pennsylvania State Legislature as soon as the new session begins in January. Robin, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I mean, certainly if everyone needs to review the language, great. We'll just look forward to hearing back from you.
And if you did want to do it by email,
We'll let you know.
whatever.
Yeah.
We really value your support, and I'm a firm believer that what's going to happen in Radnor is it's going to be the health aspects. I think I said at the last meeting, between the 15th of April and the 1st of September, because I was measuring it, we had 100 days of a dew point of 60 or higher. And they anticipate that by 2030, we're going to have 75 days in the Philadelphia area over 90 degrees. So it's here, it's coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Spotty. Just one more bit of old business before we move on to new business, the student projects. I think last week as we ended the meeting, we were talking a bit with the gentleman on the students, and they gave some thought to talking about making some adjustments to the health program at school, correct? Which I thought was really interesting stuff. Any other discussion since?
Yes, so we decided to narrow it down specifically to the issue of sleep time because it's such a prominent issue right now. And we feel like we didn't have enough education, having finished the health curriculum at the high school, regarding sleep, especially athletes they require more sleep because of their increased physical strain in the day. Our school issued iPads keep us on screens late at night, potentially, which can disrupt the sleep cycle. So these are things that, just examples that we want to address regarding the
Awesome.
Health reform.
And I think it'll certainly tie in for the students as well for, April. I think it's April, the Student Health Week is in April now. So that'll certainly tie into some of those. One of the full days, I believe, is about sleep in the Teen Health Week. So that should help us tie into some of that as well. That's excellent, guys. Thanks. And we'll move on to new business. We do have someone from the township to speak with us about the deer population. Supervisor Gallagher has come in today to speak with us. Thank you.
Sarah. Sarah. Sarah's stealing my thunder.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm just trying to figure out. I don't use a PC. I use a Mac. So it's
Okay, we're there.
You're
I
there.
got it from here. Where you been, bud? Get me going. Was it functioning 5? So I'm at the full screen. There you go. Good evening. My name is Bill Gallagher. I'm the Ordinance Enforcement Officer for the Township, and my partner is Lieutenant Pino. I guess it's by the bar. Back in 2012, we were charged with a problem that the township was having with the deer population. And when we started, I was looking back at letters, and one of them was the number of deer in the townships, no longer a mere problem, it's become a crisis. And I trust that the commissioners will not delay in finding a solution. And that was Mrs. Thurman from Brook Road, who had a gigantic estate. And she wrote that letter in 1994. So we've been battling that problem since 1994. In 2012, the manager came to us and he asked what the other townships were doing. We went around, we checked, and we found out that the United States Department of Agriculture had a specific plan where they could help us, trim the deer population. First thing they did was a survey, and the survey was taken on a route of 27 miles through the township, and we do it every year. We take the same route. It's not necessarily where all the deer are. We actually go down Lancaster Avenue, we go past Villanova University on Spring Mill Road, where obviously there isn't any deer. But that first survey, we found 101 deer per square mile. That was before fawning, which meant that there was 1,394 deer in the township. And what I also want to stress is how many police calls that are involved. The police responded that year to 84 deer killed by vehicles, 84 in Radnor, as well as 67 other deer incidents. So, you can do the math, how much time the police spent just on deer alone. That was our deer management back then, that sign. Unfortunately, the deer didn't read it. So then we started. Actually, Joe and I go out with a sharpshooter and a spotter from the USDA in a truck. We have several properties from township residents. We do some township property where we'll go out, we'll bait, and we'll remove the deer. Our first year, obviously there were so many, we took out 250. We also partnered with a private hunting club during the hunting season. That's the only time they're allowed. And they're archery only. And they had 64. Our survey that year went down to 62 deer per square mile, 849 in the township. This one year, police responded to 44 deer that were killed by vehicles, cut it in half that first year, and 41 other incidents involving deer. 2014, the township was still obviously loaded with deer. 300 were culled, 57 more by Chester Valley Deer Management. Our deer per square mile went down to 43 and a half. And the police response, 28 killed by vehicles, as well as 38 other incidents involving deer. And when I talk about other police calls, and I didn't want to get really graphic because I'm sure everybody has seen it driving around the township over by Valley Forge, Military Academy, anybody with these kind of fences, deer get impaled, and it's the ugliest thing you will ever see. These are just a couple little fawns stuck in a fence, a bigger doe stuck in a fence. They're for the other police calls that the police respond to. Then we get back to 2015, 201 deer were culled, 26 by Chester Valley. And if you'll notice, as we get the more deer removed from the township, it's a lot more difficult for the private hunters. It's, it's not shooting fish in a barrel anymore, so they got to actually do some hunting. Our survey went down to 22.6 deer per square mile, with only 313 in the township. The police responded to 24 who were killed by vehicles and 32 other incidents involving deer. We're starting to really manage it at this point. 2016, 150 deer, 16 were removed by Chester Valley, and the survey showed we were back up to 26.5 deer per square mile. Reason being, in 2015, we went out for 15 nights of the culling. In 2016, we cut it down to 10. Again, we're down to 21 deer killed by vehicles, as well as 35 other calls involving deer. And 2017, again, another 10 nights, 150 deer, 16 by Chester Valley, down to 28, with 382 in the township. Police responded to 30 deer killed by vehicles and 24 calls involving deer. Again, it's another 10-night thing, so it's being the same. It's not really going down like we wanted it to. In 2018, we only did 6 nights, and we got 150 deer. As of November 12th is when we did the survey. 17 deer were killed by cars, as well as 20 incidents involving deer, which is way down, which is really nice. The surveys conducted shows we were at 14 deer per square mile and 191 estimated in the township, which is actually right where we want to be. And if you look at the graphs, which I like to look at because you can just see it go right on down as the years go by. There's our deer incidents. You look at 2012 when we started, the 84 killed by vehicles in 2012. In 2018 is down to 17, much safer highways. And this is an interesting one. Back in, I'm not sure if I got this in 2015 or 2016, but the average cost on a animal claim, you know, something hitting your vehicle was $2,730. And you can see in 2010, this is just Radnor, we figured $245,000 worth of insurance claims, all the way down to 2018, $46,000 worth of insurance claims. So it's working in a lot more ways than even we anticipated. And this morning, right on King of Prussia Road by Berwyn Road, ladies driving to work, deer ran out. That's a lot more than $2,700. Like I said, at 9:30 this morning, this happened. Luckily, she was okay.
And that deer lived. Wow.
Yeah, the deer did. It ran away. Yeah, that hood, the windshield, and the roof. So when you see those deer crossing signs, really honest, you know, be careful. So just to go over everything, since the winter of 2012, the USDA Wildlife Services have removed 1,201 deer from the township. Chester Valley did a total of 176 deer. The density has dropped from 101 deer before fawning in 2012 to 28 deer per square mile, which I did this before. We are now down to 14 deer per square mile. The deer killed by vehicles has been reduced from 84 to 17. And police responses have dropped from 151 calls in 2012 to 37 through November of this year. And probably what Joe and I are the most proud of is every deer removed from Radnor Township was transported to an approved processor, packaged and donated for charitable food distribution. Since we started, a total of 38,400 pounds of venison has been donated by Radnor Township, again, since the program began. And I forgot to bring them, but we do have a couple letters from people that got to receive the donations. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Joe would. I'm not a hunter. Joe's a hunter.
Is this a program that's funded by the Radnor Township
Yes, sir.
budget? And is it an ongoing program? Is there plans for 2019, 2020? This is just a yearly kind of thing that's done?
We are going into next year. We're going to do it. We are our goal eventually is to turn it over to private hunters. You know, if we can get a program that the private hunters can maintain it, that would be, you know, that's our goal. That's gold if we could do that.
Is there any information that you've had from either USDA or other people that how long it would take for this population to creep back up again? Is it one season? Is it 2 seasons? Is it?
They estimate it's about 2 years. You remember, deer are very prolific breeders, especially in an area where they have no natural predators. Plus, the other thing is, as I was talking to the doctor at the end of the table before, Radnor Township has some high-quality habitat for deer. I mean, we have a lot of open space. We have a lot of people with nice plantings, everything else. So you create a vacuum. So we take out all the deer in Radnor Township, and all the Marple deer, the Tradifern deer, the Newtown deer, they all slide in. And it sounds funny, but it is true. It's exactly what will happen. And it won't take long for it to go right back up.
Has been the main impetus for the deer calling from the beginning? Has it been the traffic accidents? Has that been the issue, the main issue?
That was the initial issue. I mean, there's been a lot of variables. Obviously, you know, people talk about, like, the first night that we even thought about doing this, we had a meeting at the Radnor Library, and we thought, you know, okay, put it out, maybe 10, 15 people will show up. We had people from Rhode Island that came to protest that, you know, that we were even thinking about this. And the place was packed, and we had about, I guess, 6 to 8 people who first spoke, and their first thing was they spoke about the Lyme disease, that their family had suffered Lyme disease. Somebody that they knew had suffered Lyme disease. And that's, you know, and that and the accidents and everything else, and it just, you know, it's kind of snowballed from there.
And just to piggyback on that, as well as the accidents and all the money that the accidents cause, that's a fraction of personal costs that the deer cause in individual home and planting damage and trees and shrubs, gardens and everything else.
I'm of the opinion that, I mean, I think the deer call has been really effective. It's great from the standpoint of efficacy, but I do think that deer do add to our township. And I think that, you know, we do have to think about maybe allowing that number to even either stay the same or go up a little bit, and working on the other end to deal with the issue of accidents. I mean, obviously, I hit a deer actually a few years ago. Not an insignificant impact when you hit a deer. But I think that, you know, maybe increasing signage. I think people fly around these bends. And I think that everyone has to, I mean, public education, we just have to be really assuming that a deer is going to jump out of nowhere with no warning.
And that's what happened, you're right.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me. But I think we need to work a little bit on the end of the drivers. Safe driving, increased signage in the high-density deer areas.
By no means are we even thinking about or wanting to exterminate the deer population. I mean, basically, we want it, you know, us and the deer, everybody, you know, live together. It just, I'm sorry, Joe.
Deer density for an urban neighborhood is 4 to 5 deer per square mile. We're not even attempting to go there because of the fact that there is, while it is decreasing rapidly, as you all well know, there's still a lot of open space in Radnor Township. And we can hopefully handle a 14 to 16 deer per square mile. But what you have to remember is those deer aren't going to go and stay where you want them to stay. I mean, we're going to allow 14 to 16 deer per square mile in township. That doesn't mean they're all going to hang out in Bryn Mawr Avenue and on the farm. They're going to be in Wayne. They're going to be on Lancaster. They're going to be on King of Prussia Road. So it's a fine line. But to answer your question, we are not looking to be a stereotypical deer ratio for an urban neighborhood. We are almost 4 times what a normal urban.
What can we do as Radnor Township residents to, or that's not involving just control of the population? So the intervention of, reducing the population to a manageable number per square mile seems, appropriate and reasonable for public safety. What other things should we consider in a recommendation besides just that approach? Are there other things that you've learned in doing this over the years that might be helpful?
There's nothing that's going to control the population short of removing the deer. You can cut down the nuisances of the deer by just doing some research online and change your plantings. There's just some plantings that aren't attractive to the deer and they won't come to your neighborhood. There's other plantings that that they're just going to be in your backyard every night. The lady made a wonderful point, people got to drive slower, but that's everything from deer to stop signs to school buses and everything else. That's it.
So I was specifically thinking about the traffic issues more than the driving. Is there other things that we can do barrier-wise or other recommendations we can make that might improve or prevent accidents, or, other than the control of the population, which, like I said, seems very reasonable, and you've done, I think, a really admirable job with that.
There's a 2-level problem I see with that. There is, in the township, there's a difference between state roads and township roads. The Board of Commissioners would obviously be allowed to construct what they want on township roads, whether it be a wall or barriers or something like that, obviously at a financial cost. I want to be careful, and I don't want to talk with absoluteness here, but it's a state road. I don't believe the township could just go in there and do what they want on a state road. They would have to seek permission from higher ups, and then same thing's going to happen. I don't foresee a scenario where the state is going to pay for that. It would again fall on the township. And just off the top of my head, the roads that are of biggest concern to us as far as the deer crashes are predominantly going to be state roads. I hope that answers your question. It's not a great answer, but it's the best thing I can do.
I think it's very realistic.
How many signs, deer crossing signs, do we have in the township?
I do not know off the top of my head. That would be something for traffic safety.
Okay.
But I could gladly get it to you. No
Yeah,
problem at all.
It would be helpful to know that.
Mm-hmm, sure.
I don't know if anybody's any experience with this or not, kind of a strange off-the-wall thing. I spoke to someone at Jenkins Arboretum, which is down, I guess, toward King of Prussia area, and they have fences around their property, the Arboretum, but they have big open areas where the cars pull in. And I asked one of the techs there and said, why don't you get deer all over this property eating all this beautiful stuff that you have built? And she said, well, the deer don't like to walk over a certain surface, and they have this surface on the front of their property that's got sort of cement and ditches between the areas of cement. And she said they prefer not to walk on them. They'll avoid that area completely. I didn't know if that was ever a consideration on those areas that are bad on the larger highways. Just, yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. It sounds like a great idea, but I would refer back to my original answer. If it's a state road, I don't know, I mean, how far does the state take the road? If it go far enough off the road, does it become township property? And they can do it. It's a great question, but I don't have an answer for that.
I'm sorry, no, please.
What are the state roads in our township? 252 and Route 3?
252 is not in our township. We have Bryn Mawr Avenue,
Okay.
320, Lancaster Avenue,
Darby Paoli
Road.
There's quite a few.
Conestoga Road.
Never know.
Spring Mill Road.
Spring Mill.
Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is.
Is that where the majority of these incidents occur, you think?
Off the top of my head, Bryn Mawr Avenue is the worst.
Bryn Mawr.
Hands down, Bryn Mawr Avenue. For those stats, I'd be willing to bet at the beginning, 1 out of every 5 or more were on Bryn Mawr Avenue.
Bryn Mawr Avenue.
To this day, it's still bad. It's still bad.
If you went down by Sacred Heart at dusk or dawn, you go down there, it was almost like doing a slalom. I used to be a fireman at Bryn Mawr, and you literally slalom through the deer right in the middle of Bryn Mawr Avenue. Amazing.
Which you have to remember, deer's basic instinct when they get scared is stop. It freezes. It thinks you can't see it. So deer gets out in that road, it's already nervous because it's on concrete, like you said, and its hooves are very slippery. It doesn't like being there. It sees those lights coming, has no idea what it is, and its instinct is to freeze and stop. And it's just going to stand there. And that's when the deer dies. That incident we saw before, that deer's just crossing and it's talking like a perfect storm. That deer was coming across for whatever reason and just met that lady in the car. And that, like we said, that deer will live. That car's messed up, but that deer will live. But when that deer's standing and you hit it, that's when you have the deer fatalities and more significant damage to the automobile.
I bet there's so many more. I mean, I can tell you of multiple incidences of me missing just by, and I think all of us have had that experience where, your heart skips a beat, sure. And I think the work that you're doing is very important. It's vital. It's for the safety of the community. And I thank, both of you for that work. And I think making it a donation really, I think makes certainly me as a township resident feel better about having to do this, as we all value life. But, clearly this is a safety issue, I think, for the community.
I got one last question. You mentioned the neighboring townships. Do they also have a deer management program?
That's what I was just going to ask as well.
Lower Merion does. They use the same group, the same exact people that we do. Haverford Township has a pseudo program, but Haverford Township, and I don't want to speak as an authority member, but they have, where their deer are much more concentrated, their open areas are much more concentrated than ratters. So they make an effort. They use township employees, mostly police officers and hunters, to go into specific areas.
Tredyffrin, no.
Tredyffrin doesn't. Tredyffrin used to use the group that we used to use with solely for hunting, but Tredyffrin was more comfortable in opening up more of their public parks and everything to hunting. The Board of Commissioners to date, while they've been huge supporters of us, haven't really had the appetite to open up parks to regular hunting. And I'm a hunter, but I get it. You'll be walking through your park one day, you'd always see some guy in orange and up in a tree stand. That'd be a little distance. So, Lower Merion, and some of the other smaller farms, I honestly don't know.
The last question I have, your goal is to move it over to the private groups in 2 years, or at some point?
At some point.
Well, but you'll still keep in control of the management part of it, as far as not culling it down to zero?
Correct.
Oh, absolutely,
Thank
yes.
you.
Yes. And the lieutenant is in charge of the private group, so everything goes through him. And one other thing that I neglected to mention is I think it was 1,120, is that what I said? For the total deer culled, just to show you how, what was it?
1,201 and 176 by the hunters.
Thank you so much. See, somebody was paying attention. This is awesome. The 1,201 deer, there was 1,201 shots taken. That's how safe this is.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's displeasing to a lot of people, it's unsettling, but in 6 years, I would say basically I've been on every night that they've been out. I think 2 off the top of my head I can think that I couldn't make, and there has not been one formal complaint. The biggest call that we'll get is that there'll be a guy on the side of the road, a disabled vehicle, and a white truck on the side of the road. People don't even know, like we've been removing deer from your front lawn in the middle of the night. People don't even wake up.
So for residents' information, this happens early November?
Well, with respect, man, we try not to advertise it.
Okay, that's fine.
We don't like to let it go out. But no, we
In the fall, would you say? Just when we hear shot?
This will be later winter.
Okay, thank you.
Late winter this year.
Thank you.
And is bow hunting part of this too, or just guns?
Part of the culling that we do with the USDA is rifle only.
Okay.
Done with a suppressed rifle, night vision goggles, night vision scopes over bait. Hunting in Radnor Township, the only legal hunting in 99% of all the area of Radnor Township that you can do is archery hunting. There used to be sections of the farm before they developed it where you could actually shotgun hunt. And man, I have to be honest with you, since it's been divided up so much, I don't know if there's enough room left to allow shotgun hunting to go on.
Our guys weren't even safe with it. They didn't,
Right, so-
they're not doing it.
So, to answer your question, the hunting that goes on around the township is by bow only. Maybe a tiny portion with shotguns. The USDA, the culling is done totally with a rifle at night, with night vision, out of the back of the tree.
Okay, and how close does that get to people's properties?
You'd be surprised. With your permission, I'll come to your house. Let me back up a little bit. What I've done in the beginning, since the beginning, is I've literally looked at a map and I get an idea where the deer go. I take some of my experience, I try to find deer runs and everything else, and I drive around the township and I look for houses where I can envision a place where a safe shot could be taken. I'm looking for backstop, I'm looking for, you know, no neighborhoods, no neighbors in the area, stuff like that. Prime example is I was talking to a gentleman at the end. The 600 block of Mill Road, we used to get complaints after complaints and complaints about deer. There's nothing we could do about it. I mean, the guy would say every night at 8 o'clock there'd be 10 deer in his yard. And he's right, we drive by every night at 10 o'clock, there'd be 10 deer in his yard, but there's nothing we can do about it. But with a little effort, a little work, and a lot of cooperation with the residents, we found a house at the end of Oxford that borders the Blue Route wall. So there's a 12 to 15 foot berm and then a 10 to 12 foot concrete wall that makes the Blue Route. So we were able to put bait there, and I'm not saying we would bring all the deer down, but we would bring a significant amount of deer down to that spot where we would be able to come in. It was safe. There's plenty of back spot. There's no, and then we were able to do what needs to be done right there. So it takes some effort, but in that case, we were probably, if you get the house, the driveway, 10, 15 feet from the house, because of the way we were going, the angle we were doing, and what we had. But there'll be other houses where we'll be looking at deer and you won't be able to see nothing behind it for as far as your eye can see, but the problem is the land goes down on a hill or something like that, and that's not a shot that we would ever take. So there's a lot that goes into it. I understand your question about distance from residents and stuff like that, but that's not always the primary concern. And yes, it's a concern, but if the situation presents itself, it can be done fairly close to a house. But on the other side of that is if the situation presents it, you could be really far from a house and you're just not going to take the shot because it's not safe. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, it answers my question. I'm sort of surprised that it's that close to people's homes.
Well, that's where the suppressor comes in. That's where the suppressor comes in. It's not like the movies where the gun goes off and nobody hears nothing. It's quiet. It's much more quieted than would be if you're familiar with firearms or anything like that. But like I said, it's winter. I get it. Windows are closed. Doors are locked tight. People got the heat on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not the sound, it's just the safety, the safety aspect. But I guess you haven't had any problems, so.
Not even one complaint.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We appreciate it. We really do. And it gives us a base, I think, really to make some recommendations for further considerations for the township residents' safety in their vehicles. And we do thank you guys for that. It looks like there's going to be a meeting in this room, so I want to move things along. It looks like people are coming in for another meeting. So just to real quickly just end the new business on telling my fellow board members, the plans for 2019 are this. 2019, when we start the year in the Board of Health, we need to have an election. So there will be an election as the first order of business next month. We can call the meeting to order, have a pledge of allegiance, but we can't do any business at all, like reviewing the minutes or doing other health officers. Oh, and I totally forgot the health officer report tonight. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so we're going to, but it will be to do the election first and then move on to that. So we are going to welcome a new member as of January 1st, I'm sorry, the January meeting, the January 22nd meeting, which is a Tuesday because of the holiday. And her name is Joan Carabasi, is it Carabasi? And so I am done my term as of the end of this meeting, or the end of this year, I should say, not the end of this meeting, so we'll do some business before the end of the year. So it'll be up to my assistant to hold that election. So it'll be you that'll hold the election, right? You're my assistant, Linda, sure? Okay. So you'll hold the election, and then we can move on to regular business. And whoever, I'll actually email everyone the Board of Health agenda like template, so whoever becomes the president can use that template and provide you with some more information to the new president. Is there any announcements or public participation today before we move to the next meeting? Again, I'm sure, walk to the podium and state your name, please.
Hi, my name's Jim Yiannopoulos. I live at 15 Braxton Road. My wife, Amy Wishner, was actually, she did 2 terms on this board. When I first saw the agenda, I didn't see the resolution. I was really excited when I saw the leaf blower resolution. And I was a little deflated when I saw, oh, just 2007 and earlier. I think it's a great first step. I think Nancy mentioned that you run one for an hour and it's like idling a car for 30 hours, the old ones. Even the new ones, you run one for an hour, it's like running a car for 8 hours. And they're a distinctly American invention. I get it that we need cars. I get it that we need all sorts of other vehicles. We don't really need leaf blowers. So I hope as time goes on, this board will consider going a little further, as some have actually suggested doing, which would be outlawing the gas ones completely. There are some towns in this country that have outlawed gas blowers. Maple Shade or Maplewood, New Jersey, I think it's Maple Shade, New Jersey, and Palm Springs, California have outlawed them completely. So, you know, I've never owned one. I've got a 1/4 of an acre lot. I admittedly have a smaller lot than maybe many people do. Took me 4 hours with a rake. I know I heard somebody chuckle when Kathy Durham mentioned raking, but it is annoying. If you live in a densely populated area of this township, it's all weekend. It's just on all the time, 8 to 6 at least, Saturdays and Sundays. So, you know, I hope this will just be a first step, and it is a good first step. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. All right. Anybody else with any other announcements? So before we adjourn, I'm just going to say, before I bang the gavel for the last time, I'd really like to thank everyone for the opportunity to serve as the chairman of this board for 3 years, and really to thank my fellow board members. You folks have been awesome, helpful, amazing people. Your motivation and your service to our community, your hard work to educate the neighbors in our community, and your personal friendships. And I thank you guys so much for serving with me. And I hope you guys have the best of luck in moving forward with this board, and please don't hesitate to call and ask for my assistance. Thank you. Thank you.